Fog number 108 is Steve Price. Steve made his Origin debut in Game 1 of the 1998 series, scoring a try, and in all played 28 matches for Queensland. Steve's NRL career started at Canterbury in 1994 and was a member of the team that was defeated by Canberra in that year's grand final. 12 months later, Steve, playing in the second row, scored the first try in the Bulldogs' 17-4 grand final win over Manly. In 2004, Steve was awarded the Ron McAuliffe Medal as Queensland's best in the Origin series. Steve finished his NRL career with the Warriors, where he played 91 games. In 2011, Steve was appointed a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit for his services to rugby league.
Well, Steve Price, thanks for your time. What does it mean to you to be a Fog?
It means a great deal to me. I grew up, like everyone probably says, grew up desperate to play and wear that maroon jersey. So to be able to know that, you know, I go up on that wall with every other person who's been able to do that as well is a very special moment for me and particularly for my family. It's to know where I come from and had no real rugby league blood or any previous stuff in my family lines, I suppose. To then, you know, aspire to do it and then to do it is very, very special. It's probably my most favoured moment in my rugby league career.
Well, take us back to the start. Born in Dalby, via Acacia Ridge to Toowoomba. How did it all begin for you as a young bloke in Dalby? What are your memories of growing up?
I started out on the farm. My dad was, he built trailers, so Boilermaker, had Price's trailer sales in Dalby. Probably wasn't that good on the finance side. We went bankrupt. And then, we moved to Acacia Ridge. Mum and Dad split up, and then Mum remarried and moved to Toowoomba, and that's where my life and my direction changed, that's for sure, in what I then wanted to aspire to be and do. But a huge focus on this game called rugby league that I just stumbled across from a friend at school. So ends up having been such a huge part of my life and shaped me as the young man that I am, or young man I became, and then obviously onto the father and husband and son that I am today. So it's funny how life does take different little paths, but you know, having the right people around you and that type of thing really, really helps.
Sliding doors moment. Mate asked you to go along and play footy. What were your expectations? What were your memories of playing footy as a young bloke?
Really excited, nervous, absolutely scared. My mate wanted me to go and play footy. I went, asked Mum. Mum wasn't really that keen. My stepfather was a rugby league man from Winton, so he was like, no, it'd be right for him, it'd be good. Went along, and unfortunately, whilst my mate was in my class at school, he was a year older. So I wasn't going to be in his team. So I wasn't really that keen then. And Mum just sort of said, you know, why don't you go and see the kids that are your age and see what happens. Ended up being a pretty handy type of group, the Doonerman brothers and all that sort of stuff. So, I took Mum's advice, and as you do when you're a kid. And then, I remember my first game, I was absolutely packing it to get tackled. So I just ran as fast as I could away from everyone. I think if I didn't score on my first touch, I was very close to my first touch, and I actually was probably more out of fear that happened. And then, obviously as you go through the grades, things change. And I think I cried a lot in my first couple of years, getting tackled and hurt and all that sort of stuff, and you just grow up.
Well, that's interesting you say you nearly scored from your first touch, because it almost sets the template for your career. You scored a try on debut for Queensland. You scored the first try in a grand final win. So, I mean, there is an inkling there when you started in Toowoomba that a first try in matches or whatever may be a path for Steve Price down the track. When did it start getting serious for you then?
I think from your own perspective, your focus really shifts to want it to be a career, and you're going to actually start making choices that are going to help you achieve that. So by not drinking and smoking doesn't mean you're going to make it, but I knew that there was other kids more talented, and if I did do that type of stuff, that was only going to make me just like them. if they were doing it. So I try to do things that the others weren't to try and gain a bit more yardage on them, I suppose, to catch up to them a bit. I had some amazing coaches when I was a kid. They were all about developing good young men who would then generally, all those traits would come out in your footy. And we had, at Newtown, we had an amazing sort of production line, I suppose, of NRL kids coming through. The Lowe brothers, the Witt brothers. There was a whole heap of the Doonerman brothers that came through. Robbie O'Davis, Kurt Wrigley, all these kids were coming through around the sort of same time, 10-year period, and one little club in Toowoomba. So that was all from coaches, and they obviously taught you all the right techniques and also all the right attitudes to have, and that certainly helps when you get to the tough parts of things. But yeah, probably I was sort of short and chunky. My wife says I was short and fat, and I didn't really shoot up until I was about 15. And it was really unusual for me because I was always this smaller kid. And then all of a sudden I shot up, but I didn't realise that I'd shot up. And Mum actually said, I'm going to tape a game because you're actually not playing to the way how big you are. And then when I watched it, I couldn't believe that I'd shot up. And that probably helped. I think you got to have a lot of luck go your way, and injuries, I think just your makeup, being 6'3", that helps, having that frame, and then being able to fill it in, and then just having a really good hard work ethic and trying to improve all the time. I think that helps, but it still doesn't guarantee you. So you got to have a lot of luck go your way.
So how does a boy from Toowoomba end up coming to the attention of the Bulldogs?
I was actually on scholarship at the Seagulls. Billy Johnson knew some family, friends, and so yeah, I was on scholarship there. And then Peter Moore saw me play at a schoolboy carnival down the Gold Coast. I don't know what I did that day. I was trying really hard to impress him, but one of the things I did was try and take a shot at goal in front of him from the sideline. I think I kicked the ground and it just trickled along the ground. So I thought, there goes the Bulldogs. But yeah, there was something that he must have liked about me, and didn't ring me, didn't do any of that, rang neighbours, teachers, coaches, everybody who was within my life, I suppose, to get an understanding of the kid and the family. And then that's when he rang Mum. And all he asked was at the Australian titles, which in our team there was Matty Singh, Brad Thorne, some pretty handy players. Yeah, in our team, Johnny Driscoll, that was our schoolboys team, the Doonerman brothers. So we were going over to Perth for this championship, and I was on the bench, and Peter just asked Mum if he could talk to me. So I'm waiting for Peter Moore to talk to me. He didn't talk to me until pretty much the last day of talking to all the other boys, in our team and other teams. And I was just going, what's this guy on about? He's rang my mum to want to talk to me. But all he said to me too was, oh mate, you're not going to make the Australian schoolboys. Don't get disheartened or disappointed about that, because you go back and you just keep working really hard. It's got nothing to do with just think of it as someone's opinion, and you just come off the bench, and that's one of the biggest reasons why you're not going to get in the team. But don't get upset about it. And then he flew Mum and my brother to the Commonwealth Bank Cup Grand Final. He was sending Mum flowers every week. And Peter always had this thing about, I suppose, signing kids. If you got the mum, you got the kid. So when Mum said you're going to the Bulldogs, Gold Coast didn't have a 21s the next year. Gold Coast and the Broncos, they had under 21s got taken out. And that was what my scholarship said, was to go down and play under 21s at the end of school. And so when that was taken out, then Peter just did this letter. I just had to sign it, and that got me out of my scholarship. So signed with the Bulldogs.
And what was it like moving from Toowoomba to Sydney?
Huge culture shock. I was really homesick, and probably the end of the first year, pretty much said to Peter, I want to go home. And he said, well, I asked you one question when you first came, what do you want to get out of this experience? And I said, I don't want to go home a loser. And all I meant by that was not going home, not having given it my best shot. If I wasn't good enough, sweet, I'm all good with that. But he said, if you go home now, you're going to go home, in your words, as a loser. He said, but go home and work out what it is you got to work out, come back, and then tell me what you're going to do. So it sort of put me back a bit because I thought he might have, wanted me to be there a bit. But he was truly honest. And when you think about it, the kids are lined up. So I went home and I actually sat down with all my mates and they all said, I wish I was you. And I said, oh, well, I wish I was back here with you blokes. And they go, why? Like, we didn't do that great at school. So that gives you limited opportunities and what your jobs are. And they said, all we do is pretty much get on the grog Friday, Saturday, Sunday, play our footy, and we watch you, or hoping to watch you. That's pretty much where we're at. And it was a really good sort of kick in the butt for me to sort of say, things aren't as bad as what you think, and you've got a great opportunity here. Don't mess it up. So went back and completely changed my attitude. And it wasn't about Sydney. It was just about I'm here doing what I've dreamt of doing. And if that lasts 10 years, 15 years, 2 years, it's going to last as long as it does. And then I'll go and do whatever after that.
And how did that improve your football that next year?
Yeah, heaps better. Because you're just happier and you're more focused. And it just ends up being you're taking those obstacles out that actually don't have much impact on it, really. It's just your mental take on it. And if you can limit or eliminate all those sort of things, it certainly helps. You be happier and healthier and more excited. And my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife, she moved down as well, so that helped.
So 1994 rolls around. Halfway through the year, you make your first grade debut. Take us back to that time. You're playing against Balmain and you're in the middle of a competition which is the best in the world, a boy from Toowoomba. How nervous were you and how excited was that occasion?
Really nervous. The thing was, but back then is there was probably 10 guys sitting on the bench. So any one of us could get a call up to go on the field, and it could be at any time. So you play reserve grade, half time. If your team's going all right, Gary usually come over and give you a jersey. You'd be off in reserve grade. You're going to sit on the bench for first grade. So that was what you wanted to get, that call. And then when you get there, then you just hope you're going to get that opportunity. I always thought that my debut was against Manly, only because that was a game I do remember. That the Balmain game I don't remember, and I understand why, because you're not thinking it's going to happen, and then when it actually does, it's just a blur. You just get on, and I think Paul Serena was playing, Tim Brasher, like all of these guys that I watched when I was a kid. I'm actually playing against, and in our team, Ian Pay and Terry Lamb, and again, guys that I watched playing footy, and now I'm all of a sudden actually out on the same field as them. So very nervous, excited, but I think the way it happened probably helped that, because you're just sitting there talking to the boys, and we'd have bench lotto, put them $5 each, and whoever got the run, took the money. So I was always putting the money in and not getting a return, and then finally I got a return, which is pretty exciting.
Well, you're joining a club tour. You're becoming, a first grade player at a wonderful time with the Bulldogs. They made the grand final in '94, but beaten, and then made the grand final again. But so you are coming on the scene at a terrific time for the club. What was that like?
Yeah, it was amazing. So I got 10 minutes in the grand final in '94 because Darren Smith was going to the Broncos, and I don't think Chris was too happy with that. So he obviously thought, well, this game's gone, so I'll give a kid a game, the last 10 minutes of that's going to help us probably going forward. So I felt really bad for Smithy, because I got on great with Smithy. He was the one who picked me up off the plane when I first arrived at Canterbury and really helped, make it feel as comfortable as it could down in Sydney. So that was pretty sad, but so exciting. I think I did the lap of honour with Canberra that day. I was just so excited to get on the field and all that sort of stuff, and went over and saw Mum and everything, got back to the dressing room, and then understood, the actual occasion. And Peter Moore said, you never want to feel like this ever again. And I'm going, are you serious? This is awesome. And then you see Bar and you realise what it's about. And then 95, we go on and win it. And then you
score a try.
And you scored a try. And you understand what it's about, right? You work out what happens. Like that year in particular, the Super League war started. We had guys who signed with Super League and then backflipped and went to the ARL. They were in court cases. But as a group, we sort of really stuck together. Some guys had injuries that gave people like me an opportunity. Jason Smith was in our team. He was coming back from injury, and Chris said, I'm going to start with you in I think it was a major semi-final against Canberra, it might have been, or Brisbane, one of those. And I couldn't believe that he was actually giving me that opportunity ahead of Jason Smith, who was currently playing for the Australian team. But he just said, Smithy's been out, you've been playing. And I got that opportunity because Robert Ralph got injured. So, yeah, a lot of things sort of happened for that to happen, but got to start, scored the first try. Mum and everyone was there. Tina Turner was there. Yeah, it was an amazing day, an amazing memory winning that, going back to the Leagues Club, leaving the Leagues Club to go to the game, just absolute craziness. Very, very passionate fans.
Yeah, you mentioned Super League. The game was in turmoil and the game split in two, so it delayed your Origin debut, it could be said, until 1998. When the two sides got back together and the competition got back together and things sort of returned to normal, the dream of playing Origin football must have been burning, particularly after you've won a premiership and you're playing in a very good side. Take us back to 1998.
Yeah, I got to say, 1998, I probably was starting to grow up to be what I potentially could be. Like, I think 94, 95, 96, and then Super League 97. Yeah, I was all over the place. And 95, we won the comp. Then 96, I was off the bench almost all year and almost left the club and went to the Cowboys because I didn't think Chris liked me. But one of the things that I've learned, and probably through more that experience than anything, is just to front someone that you think might be a problem because it mightn't actually be a problem. When I actually fronted him about it, he just was really honest with me and said, the reason why I didn't talk to you or I yelled at you or I did this or I did that, you know, put rumours around about you or whatever it might have been, that you're going to South or whatever, was because I couldn't work out how to get the best out of you. So I was trying all the different, I said, if you had just said that to me, I would have been good. Whereas when you don't talk to me, I'm thinking you don't like me, and then you're saying stuff about me, like I'm thinking of the worst, right? And as soon as that happened, then 97 was a better year. 98 was my best year. And Folksy was our coach. He put me into front row, simplified my game, got me more involved. And I just felt as though I got a lot of confidence out of that. Started to understand what role I was actually playing in the team. Whereas when you're an edge back rower, you sort of can be in a game, can't be in a game, just depends on how the game goes. So I really did enjoy that and the growth of it. Got to room with Glenn Lazarus, who, you know, I believe was the best. If you want to model yourself on a front rower, he was that. But I didn't want to be Glenn Lazarus. I wanted to be Steve Price, who was an ex-back rower, use those things that I had and then understand what the role of a front rower is as well. So the game changed a lot as well. Went from unlimited interchange to then limited. And just things started to happen that probably helped my game. So getting picked for Queensland again was from injury. I think it was Gary Larson or Jason Smith. Someone was injured, so I come in. No, Larson was there. Yeah, I can't remember who it was. Someone was injured. I got called in. Didn't get named in the team originally, but got called in. And I was just in awe. The guys I was with, our coach was Wayne. Just blown away. I probably didn't believe I deserved to be there.
Well, that was going to be a question I ask all the Fogs that come in. When did you, because you went on to play 28 matches.
Yeah.
When did you think that you belonged as an Origin player?
Yeah, it wouldn't have been until probably 2003. 2002, played 98, 99, 2 games in 2000, got dropped for game 3 when we got really well beaten, but that was a clean sweep that year. Didn't make the team in 01. All the young boys got to go, your Dane Carlaws and all those boys. And then game 2 of 2002, I got recalled. And when I went back in the team, I wanted to be me and do the things that I do the way I do it, because that's why I was given that opportunity. And leading up to that, I thought I had to be something special. Like I sound like Darren Lockyer, but I'm not Darren Lockyer. And do you know what I mean? All these different things of this player that I thought I had to be because I was playing rep footy. And yeah, I had to have a really good internal review, I suppose, of myself of where I was at. I wasn't playing good footy. I got dropped from the Aussie team, dropped from the Queensland team, and I was almost going to get dropped from the Dogs team. So,
well, then, how important was the fact that you were appointed captain of the Bulldogs around that time as well in that change or that development for you?
Yeah, I think all of that all happened because of that reviews that I had with myself. And my wife, she was brutally honest with me. And what was happening is everyone tells you you're going good, but they're not telling you the truth. I'd rather than be truthful about it. These days it's probably the reverse because you've got social media. Everyone's telling you how good or bad you're going, probably more bad. Yeah, so I did definitely mature as a footy player around sort of 2001 onwards, and actually feels as though I worked it out. I actually worked out what worked for me, what my role was, the absolute passion and excitement I had to do those things, but knew that if I didn't do it at Canterbury, it didn't matter what I wanted to do because I'm not going to get those opportunities. So Wayne was really good in that as well. He just says, you just got to go back and play footy, good footy at the Bulldogs. And, you know, if there's an injury or we don't go so well, then you've got to be the one putting your hand up for me to pick. And lucky enough in 02 that happened. So got back in there and I made sure that I did things the way I did it as part of that group and absolutely loved it. I loved every game that I played from 2002 game 2 right through until when I finished because I believed that I deserved to be there and I actually did things the way I did it in my preparation and had an absolute ball in my own way rather than trying to be out with whoever and, you know, doing the things that you think you should be doing in Origin.
The pressure of Origin, how did you cope with that? Because, you know, we hear a lot about players and folks talking about representing Queensland and what it means to their community, having been a country boy growing up, you know, particularly in the regional areas, what Origin means for Queensland. So how did that sit on your shoulders? Was that a spur for you or was that an extra weight?
Oh, it was a huge pride, like it was a proud moment. One of my first game at Lang Park in '98, game 2, on the bus driving to the game and just seeing all the, you know, the sea of people walking to the stadium and they're in their Maroons gear and you just remember back when you were a kid, you know, knowing that whatever happened in that 80 minutes is going to have a pretty big impact on the whole state and how you feel and whether you feel good or you don't feel so good. And to know that you're one of the people who are going to have a part to play in that is quite overwhelming to understand that, you know, yeah, everyone's relying on you to go out and do what you do as well as you can. And to then, you know, sort of do it leading up to that period, but then certainly since the 2002 onwards, I do believe I did that better and I didn't worry about that stuff. All I worried about was getting me right because I knew that if I got myself right and I played my role, that everyone else would play their role. And then every one of those people going to that stadium at Suncorp would go home with a big smile on their face and pretty excited to go to work the next day.
Do you reckon the back end of your career where, you know, you still achieved greatness in the game would have been as successful if you hadn't been left out of Origin? Was that another pivotal moment?
I think it's part of the journey, eh?
Yeah.
I think there's a whole lot of guys that are different in their journey and they go on and make it straight away. Like you look at Cameron Smith, 19 or whatever he was, and stayed there until he was 52. I don't know, whenever he finished. And then there's other guys that go along different journeys and, you know, you might go via Cairns to get there instead of just going straight down the motorway. And whatever that journey is, it's your journey. And as long as, you know, the biggest thing that I can give, I suppose, anybody advice-wise is to be you and like my little thing is be your best. And as long as you are being your best and proud of what you do and who you are, you got to be in control of that but instead of other people. And I think I sort of let myself get to that situation where I wasn't in control of what I was doing. I did to get to Canterbury, and then I sort of got lost in my ways a bit, and then I was able to reset and then launch sort of from 2001 onwards, and absolutely had the time of my life on the field and off the field. From that period of time, I just felt like I belonged rather than being a bit of an imposter, I thought.
2003, a very controversial time for the Bulldogs. You'd been at top of the table, etc., and were not allowed to play in the finals because of salary caps. We've spoken to Dallas Johnson here in this room about the impact that sort of stuff has had on the Melbourne Storm. Personally, and as a club, what sort of an impact did 2003 have on you?
2002 was the year we had our points taken off us.
2002, yeah.
Yeah, so huge. Like, we're leading the comp, 3 games to go, and then all of a sudden the hammers dropped on us. All our points taken off us, 3 games to go. Still so proud of how we went out and we did that. We played the Broncos last game. They had to win to be minor premiers. I told Wayne we were going to beat them, and he laughed, and I said, we are. And that was probably one of the most memorable moments I've had on the footy field, is we beat the Broncos and pretty well. And then after the game, the crowd raced onto the field and carrying us around as though we'd won the comp. It was quite an amazing experience, particularly when you got Super League that sort of divided the players and the fans a bit. It really brought the Bulldogs fans and the players back together. And it was a really emotional, very proud moment, and helped us then really look forward to 2003, which everyone thought was going to be the grand final. It should have been in 2002, but we lost our first game in the first semi to, then we had to cross over to then play the Roosters before the grand final, and yeah, Roosters beat us in that game in a close game, but then the Panthers beat them, and then 2004 finally we got to play the Roosters in the grand final, which I didn't get to play in, but yeah, super special moment for us, and probably a great way to finish my time at the club as a player.
Well, it shows the ups and downs of the game. I mean, 2002 into 2003, but then 2004, being injured the week before a grand final, your captain, and see your team go out and win that competition.
Yeah.
Explain the emotions surrounding that particular game. You've seen your mates win a comp and you're sitting there with a knee that just can't move.
Yeah, it felt like you're a little bit of a Harry when you're there, but it really put in perspective of what it takes to win a grand final. And if I hadn't have experienced that, if I had have been holding the trophy up that day, having played, I wouldn't have appreciated how many people it took for that to happen, because I ended up being one of those people. You do feel a little bit not as though that you've been a part of it, and I think that was one of the only games I missed, other than the Origin games that we had to miss. And there was boys who played one game through to playing 26 or 28 games, whatever it was, and everyone plays a huge role in that success, right? So that week, it was more about trying to protect Jono, because we knew he was going to be the one who was going to play, but we didn't actually announce that until the Thursday, because I was trying to get fit to play. So going in the hyperbaric chamber and all that, I knew I wasn't going to be able to play. I knew as soon as I did it, because I'd done one before. So yeah, it was all about trying to take the focus off Jono, also off Bobcat. He was going to be the captain, his first time in his whole career, and he's going to be a grand final captain. So trying to take the pressure off him as well. Thursday is the day when the media stops. So on the footy show, we announced that, yep, I'm not playing, and Jono's going to play, and Andrew Ryan's going to be the captain, and then no media until game day. So my focus was just on the boys. Particularly on game day, it was just trying to make sure they were all calm and really looking forward to it. And that helped me get over any disappointment and frustration and, heartache, all that sort of stuff. So then the game was such an amazing game. Like, probably wasn't there was a lot of mistakes, but it was such a close game. Comes down to Bobcat's ankle tap with Mike Crocker right at the end to win the game. And then when we won it, that was my last time as a player at the Bulldogs. So what a way to finish,
And if my memory serves me correct, Jonathan Thurston gave you his medal, didn't he?
Ring,
yeah.
Yeah, so I was named number 10. Folks, he did that for all those reasons I just explained. Jono was number 18, and the first time that the NRL had put numbers on the ring. So there was 1 to 17 numbered rings. So when the boys went up and got their ring, they were given different numbers for whatever reason, because they'd never done it before, I suppose. They didn't know. So the boys are all getting different rings and they're swapping to get their playing numbers. And Jono got number 10, and he just walked straight up to me and he said, "This is yours, right?" And I'm going, no. Because we'd sort of organised through the week that, you know, if we win, that I was going to get a ring, but Jono was going to get one too. So the NRL had sorted that. He wasn't to know that. 18, 19-year-old, first grand final, and goes on to be a pretty decent player, right? So truly shows the person Jono is. He was going to the Cowboys, so there was no guarantees he was going to get to play in another grand final. That's not saying anything against the Cowboys. It's just realistically he might never have got another opportunity. Could have been his only chance, but that was what is really important for him at that time. And we had a lot to do with each other in a short time, being sort of come both from Toowoomba. The Bulldogs got me to talk to him, trying to sign him and that type of stuff. So, yeah, we had a really good bond and that type of thing. So for that to happen too, it's more so me and him rather than it being a big story for rugby league. That's another part just to show what rugby league can do, I think, to humans. And, again, it just goes to show what sort of person Jono
It's another
is.
layer to the, two boys from Toowoomba on the big stage, grand final day sort of thing. And, how regions and regional areas, not only in Queensland, but New South
Connects
Wales and
people.
other sport. Yeah, absolutely. So,
And that was our last time at the Bulldogs together.
yeah.
So both of us were leaving.
Not the last time you played together.
No.
Yeah, but remarkably that two blokes from Toowoomba can share that moment and also share some great times with Queensland as well. How'd you end up at the Warriors?
So my contract was it's a funny one. We had the salary cap situation, and I was negotiating with the club because I was coming off contract. I come up with a deal with the club that was a better deal than I'd had ever before in my career. Really happy about it. Then we had the salary cap scenario, and we got a new CEO, Steve Mortimer, coming as CEO. He sort of said, "We want to sign you first," and I said, "Oh, we've already agreed." He goes, "Oh, I haven't got any of that." He got the information and then said, "Oh, we can't do that, because of where we're at and blah, blah, blah." So what we'll do is do a 4-year deal. 2 years is going to be this, and then we'll look to change that as an option in your favour for the remainder of the 2 years. I said, "Yep, sweet." So that 2 years was up, which happened to be 2004. And there was one guy who knew that situation in my contract, who was the brother-in-law of the CEO at the Warriors, who had worked at the Bulldogs. So he reached out to me and said, "Would you ever consider, going to the Warriors?" And I said, "I've never really thought about it, to be honest." And he said, "Would you talk to someone to see what chance there might be?" And I said, "Yep, no problem with that." Went and had a meeting, spoke to them about it. It got me interested. My wife went over, and because it was important for me to know that Joe could handle living in New Zealand, and she went over and she said, "Yep, I've got no problems with living in New Zealand. I think it'd be great." Spoke to Wayne about it because it was a pretty big thing, and I didn't want to talk to a whole lot of people, but I thought he'd be pretty honest with me. And ended up getting to a stage where I thought that it was probably best for me. The scenario that was presented to me with Turvey wasn't going to happen. So, because we just re-signed Sonny and Willie Mason, and totally get it right, understand. They're trying to sign me, Jono and Haz, and 3 wasn't, going to go into 1. So Jono made his decision after I did, but I decided to take the Warriors offer, and I just thought it was a good time, try everything that I've learnt to help them, and the Bulldogs could go on the way because just won the comp, got a very good team, and decisions have been made to obviously go in that direction, which I totally respected. And I just thought, for me and my family, I think that's the best decision to make, so we did.
It's interesting. I'm interested to talk a little bit about the Warriors in New Zealand, because You've achieved so much in the game. Ron McAuliffe medal for the best player for Queensland in Origin Series. You've won premierships. You've represented Australia. You've done everything basically there is to do in the game. You head to the Warriors, to New Zealand, and you spend a few years there. You've made such an impact that in 2011, in the New Year's Honours, you were awarded the member of the New Zealand Order of Merit. Where does that sit with you to think that a country that's basically adopted you has given you such an honour?
Yeah, I still can't fathom it. I don't understand. You know, it's just crazy to know the short time we're in. Well, we were there 13 years in the end, but I played at the Warriors for 6. And I've got to say the decision to go to New Zealand was probably more on footy, with family as an important part of that. But the focus was footy first. And we were going there and we had no how long we're going to be there, what's going to happen, all of that. My biggest fear was whether the family would enjoy it, and that was what I was most worried about. And all of those things far exceeded, and it gave us an experience a lot more than rugby league. For my kids, for my wife, for our entire family, because they came over and visited, which they probably wouldn't normally have done. And for the way that the New Zealand people accepted us and treated us and welcomed us was truly humbling. Learned so much about the culture and family was always important to me, but it's probably one of the reasons why we moved back when we did, was because how important family is in New Zealand, and I didn't want to miss out on all the things that we got taught over there of what actually is important in life. And I wanted to come home so that we were around my mum and Joe's mum and, you know, Joe's brother and sister and my brother and sister and everyone like that, because you don't want to have regrets when things, you know, happen that you haven't done that. So, yeah, I really can't explain how amazing that was for our family. It's truly incredible, and it didn't matter where we went. And even now when I go back to NZ or you run into anyone who's a Kiwi,
do you get special privileges?
Always. No.
You still have to queue up at customs and all that?
Yes. But I've got to say, when we did do it, I was blown away by the other people who were receiving. They've been doing it for 50 years, 30 years. I'd been in the country 5 minutes, you know, and for someone to have nominated me, I actually thought one of the boys was geeing it up, right? I got this letter from the Beehive, from Parliament House in New Zealand, and it was all about what was, you know, being offered. And so I had to ring up the number just to make sure that it was legit. And the lady who answered it said, yep, you know, Australia is part of the Commonwealth as well as New Zealand. Someone's nominated you, and if you're willing to accept it, then it's happening. And so I said, absolutely. It's truly humbling. So Mum, me stepfather and Joe and the kids were all there at Government House and the ceremony, and it was truly amazing. It was an amazing event and just great to have been a part of. So I'm really, really proud of that. It's something that probably that and playing for the All Golds was something that I would never, well, you can't go out to try and achieve because the little chubby kid from Dalby, he's not going to get a New Zealand Order of Merit living in Dalby.
No, well, I'll ask you about the little chubby kid shortly, but I want to know who's had the biggest influence on your career.
Oh, I think the most constant is definitely Mum, but definitely my coaches like Arthur Wrigley, Billy Pollard, Greg Platts, these sort of guys in the local area where I was growing up had the biggest impact on me as a rugby league player and young man, and obviously my mum and stepdad. They're the ones that were the most constant. My dad's my dad, and love him, absolutely love him, but he wasn't sort of on hand all the time, and they were the ones who had the most influence of who I've become.
Well, the chubby kid in Dalby didn't know much about rugby league, so I'll ask you the question about the young bloke in Toowoomba that was invited by a mate a year above him to go along and have a game of rugby league.
Yeah.
That kid who was as nervous as all get out before the first game, what do you reckon that young kid would think if someone told him then that after this first game, you're going to go all right, you're going to play 28 games for Queensland, you're going to play nearly 20 tests for Australia, you're going to get that Order of Merit medal for New Zealand, et cetera, win premierships, play, a few hundred games of NRL. Looking back on it now, Steve Price, what goes through your mind?
Yeah, I suppose that's why I really look forward to going home every year to, Newtown awards nights and that type of thing, because you just sort of wanted the other kids to know that where you grow up, that it is possible, because I dreamt it. And then to live your dream, you don't really know as a kid whether that's possible. You hope it is, but you don't really know whether it is going to be. And I've got to say, I don't want this to sound arrogant, but when I played Origin, I dreamt it that much. It felt as though I'd already been there. And that's really hard probably for people to fathom, but I'm a very visual, detail person, and when there's something that I really want to try and achieve, I think about it a lot, and I really go into detail. I watch and I understand and I learn what people that are good at it, what they do and why they are there and why they can stay there, and try and work that into my sort of thing, and then what I've got and my tools and that type of thing. So I dreamt it that much, mate, that I actually feel like I'm living my dream, because I've already feel like I've been there, and it's really weird. I suppose after footy has been the hardest because of how much I loved and I put so much into that. That's been my struggle, is post footy, and probably a lot of the players would say that, but I don't want it to sound like it's because I miss being a rugby league player and being on TV. It's more the challenges of playing injured and getting yourself right and who you're playing against and trying to dominate them, or trying to find ways to get your team out of a hole or whatever it might be. That's what I loved. I am very competitive without being overly showing that. And so that's what I really struggle with post-rugby league. And I've tried to find something close to it, and I can't. But I just feel really privileged that I can have that struggle, I suppose, because that's how good it was. And if I could come up with anything, invent anything in the world, it would be as a simulator for every person in the world to experience through me what it was like to play State of Origin. And I mean all of the feelings that you have. The hair on the back of your neck, running out, a packed house of Queensland in front of your family, the emotions, the excitement, the exhilaration, everything. I would love to, because that would absolutely go nuts across the world. Everyone would be. They'd want to get that hit, right? And yeah, that's probably the thing I miss the most about the game, is playing at Suncorp for Queensland. And you can say any of the 28 games I've played, because they're so different, but they're like your kids. You're the same person wearing the same jersey, potentially on the same field, fair few of the times with the same players, but it ends up being different, right? So love them in every different way, good and bad, every different one of those games. And I'm just very proud to have been to be a Fog, and all the boys that have done that before and pre-Fog or pre-Origin. I love meeting those guys and listening to their stories, and I really look forward, and I get jealous of the guys who make their debut and who are currently playing, because I know how special it is.
Fog number 108, Steve Price, congratulations on a wonderful career, and thanks very much for your time.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Fog's Queenslander podcast. If there's a Fog you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.